Hey everybody, so a lot of you have been watching my video about why we moved to Oklahoma, and from that video I've been getting a lot of questions about where should you move when you move to Oklahoma. With that, I have some basic kind of guidelines that you can go by when you're thinking about trying to, or wanting to move to Oklahoma. The first one is, do you want to live in the flatlands or do you want to live in a more mountainous region? Yes, Oklahoma has mountains, believe it or not. It is not all flat. It shocked me too when we came here. But the western side of the state is going to be your more flatland area, and the eastern side of the state is going to be more of your mountainous hill country. Now, when I say mountains, it's definitely not like the Rockies or the Smokies or anything like that. To most people who live in those areas, it's just, you know, we have giant hills here. But for me, coming from Florida, we have mountains. Yay! So that's something to think about first. Do you want to live in the flatlands? Do you want to live in the mountainous area? Now, with that, there are tornadoes regardless of wherever you're going to live. We had tornadoes all the time in Florida. So tornadoes you're going to have no matter where you live in whatever part of the country. But from what I understand, the western side of the state, being the flatlands that it is, obviously has a lot more tornadoes. It's, you know, called Tornado Alley for a reason. So that is something to think about. Now, once you've decided whether you want to do flatlands or more of a mountainous area, then you kind of go from there of, do I want to live in a more built up area, like a city type area, or do I want to live in the country, like out in what seems to be out in the middle of nowhere? So when you choose that point, now, like with that being said, the cities are going to have more rules and restrictions, just like any city would. While Oklahoma is still very much so a freedom type state, the city's a city. You're going to still have typically more regulations in the cities than you are going to have out in the country. So those are your two big points that you want to think about when thinking about where do you want to move in Oklahoma. Do you want to live in the flatlands or the mountainous areas? And do you want to live in the cities or do you want to live in a more country area? Once you have that figured out, then you can kind of go from there and do some research. You can see, let's say you do want to live in a city, but you want to live in a mountainous area. You know, then you can look up the different areas and the populations and things like that of the areas in the more mountainous regions. Or if you want to look up, my daughter walking around the background. If you want to live in the country in the flatlands, you can start looking into those type of areas as well too. I personally will not be giving out our specific area. I have been asked where we live specifically. I will not be giving that out, especially to people I don't know. Sorry guys, social media, I only give a little bit of information there. But it's something that, like I said in the video of why we moved to Oklahoma, the biggest part of our choice to move in Oklahoma is because God called us here. And so when we were figuring out where we wanted to move, prayer was a huge part of it. And that's something that I've suggested to every single person who's asked me where they should move, is they should pray on it. Obviously Oklahoma is on your radar for a reason, for one thing or another. So when it comes to actually where, that's where you have to, I personally anyways, for us, rely on God more. When we first came to Oklahoma in 2019, we were actually 2 hours north of here, and we were looking at property 2 hours north of here and expected to buy and everything else, but it just didn't work out. And I'm really glad it didn't, because when we came to the county we were in, I literally, the first time we ever came to it, which was actually the beginning of this year, we drove into what was the south part of the county, because we came from Texas area. Actually, we drove through Texas, and I just sighed, this huge sigh of relief. I felt like I could breathe. I felt safe. I felt secure. I felt at home. And where we drove in wasn't even anywhere near where we actually live right now in this part of the county. So it was literally just the county itself. Once I literally drove into the county, I knew that this is where we were supposed to be. Now, I did not know. It was almost 3 months after we came into this county that my husband and I actually got property. And so even when we were in this county, I had no idea where we were actually going to be in the beginning of this year. It wasn't until when we came out here into February, beginning of March, that we actually put an offer on the property that we have now. So it may take time. And that's where my husband and I heavily relied on prayer. and listening to God and what he was saying that we should do and how we should do it and everything else. Even when it came to moving to this property, my husband and I closed on it, I want to say end of March or something like that. We didn't even move here till beginning of May because we were always in the mindset that we will leave when Yah tells us to. We will leave Florida when Yah tells us to. And I mean, we already had the camper. We had everything that we could to move up here. But we were waiting for Yah to tell us. And in mid-April, Yah told me 2 weeks. And so by May 9th, we were here on our property. And the reason I say that is because it's so important to listen to God, or Yah. You'll hear me say Yah, but it's God. Because his timing is absolutely perfect. And the reason I say that is because literally we were up here actually on a trip. My husband was working on the property and I was at a women's retreat when we heard 2 weeks. And so we had to literally go back to Florida, get everything together, which ended up being a lot more work than we thought it was. But we got up here 2 weeks after we had left Oklahoma. And it was literally the week afterwards that the whole oil crisis thing happened on the East Coast, where gas prices skyrocketed and people couldn't find gas and everything else. I want to say it was within 3 or 4 days after we got up here that started happening. And because we got up here on a Thursday, so it would have been, the next week that it happened. And I looked at my husband when all that was happening, and I told him, I'm like, if we hadn't listened to God, if we had not listened to the fact that he told me 2 weeks, then we would be stuck in Florida right now and not being able to travel up here. We wouldn't be able to afford the gas to get up here, and we wouldn't be able to find the gas, let alone even afford it, to be able to travel cross country at that time. So it's one of those things, think about where you want to live, what type of area in the sense of topography. Think about what type of area you want to live in the sense of population. Do you want to live in a more populated area? Do you want less populated area, more freedoms, things like that? Like I said, city or country. And then really, guys, heavily rely on Yah. Heavily rely on his word and where he says you should go. To be honest, you really have to just visit Oklahoma to know where you want to live, because I will be completely honest, there's some property that I looked at online that I'm like, oh, this property looks fantastic. And then, and it's a great price. And then my husband and I went to look at it, and you basically needed a helicopter to get to it. It was bad. Like, it was so bad. So it's one of those things where you really have to come here. You have to see, you have to visit, you have to see what you like and what's right for your family. And like I said, when we came into the county we live into, I could breathe again. I felt all the stress that I felt in Florida was completely gone. And it was a beautiful thing. And I don't have any of the stresses like I had in Florida living up here. So just something to think about, guys, on where you want to move when you move to Oklahoma. Obviously, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I just won't tell you where I live. But if you have any questions about Oklahoma in general, or, the topography, cities, or anything like that, I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. I am I've only been in Oklahoma 6 months, so I don't know every single town or city or anything like that. But I can give you some good educated guesses, or if I do know some information about the area you're looking in, I can help you out with that. But like I said, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. If you do want to connect with me in another way, I do have an Instagram, muckbootsnmotherhood, that you can check out as well too, and you can DM me on there with any questions you have and whatnot. But other than that, guys, stay prayerful, keep God in your heart, and let him guide you on where you're supposed to be, because his plan is perfect and he will lead you exactly where you need to be. All right, guys, hope you have a great day. Bye.